Hi, my name's Jasmine Navarro, and my story starts when I was 18 years old and I found out that my father passed away in the newspaper. My friend just told me very casually, by the way, did you know your father is dead? And it was just the biggest shock of my entire life. And I just still remember that feeling now when she told me. I just stood there and I felt like I had been hit with a million bricks. I was feeling so many emotions, and I was obviously in absolute shock. And I went home straight away. I told my mum, and she got the newspaper, and she said, it's true, and he's never coming back. And she said, he probably committed suicide. So I just dealt with that grief, and I blamed myself, actually. And the worst thing is I just felt so misunderstood. I felt so alone, and I think nobody knew what to say to me. So they didn't say anything, and so it was just sort of swept under the carpet and sort of forgotten about. And of course I was just expected to carry on as normal. Everybody, I was 18, so all my friends were going out having fun, and I felt like I couldn't talk to them. What I was dealing with was something so heavy, and I just felt so misunderstood. So I didn't talk about it because I felt like I didn't deserve to talk about it. I don't know what was happening. I was just dealing with all of these difficult emotions, and all I wanted to do, because I felt so alone, was just leave the UK. My whole goal was just get me away from this. Maybe I was trying to run away from my feelings. I don't know. I just knew I just had to get out of this situation. So this feeling, I guess I thought it was depression, but now I think I was just traumatized for about 8 years. I never really got the help that I actually needed, because especially 20 plus years ago, it just wasn't a normal thing to maybe go to a therapist or even a coach or learn how to process your emotions. It just wasn't a thing for me then, anyway. So I had periods where I would feel okay, and when I was feeling okay, I trained as a teacher, because I thought this was the only way that I could actually leave the UK, become a teacher. And I always liked traveling anyway. So I became a teacher, but then I would feel bad again. It came in waves, because, I was dealing with this grief, blame, sadness, loss, so many emotions. So every time I felt bad again, I just had to come home. And this went on for, like I said, about 8 years. Well, actually, the turning point was, I think it was 5 years in, when I realized it wasn't actually my fault that my father had passed away. And, sorry, maybe it was 8 years. Anyway, I can't remember. But when I realized that, I never actually got depressed again. So anyway, I was a teacher, and I ended up teaching in 11 countries. I was teaching primary students, secondary students, adults, and I loved connecting with the students, but, going to all of these countries by myself, wasn't easy. And obviously, after the 8 years, I had maybe gotten over the worst of the grief, where I could actually have a sort of relatively normal life without just suddenly being hit with this memory and then just having to stop everything and go home. So that took about 8 years. But like I said, I didn't get any therapy or anything like that. Anyway, so I just carried on teaching, going from one country to the next. And then 9 years ago, I came to the UAE. And that's when, I don't know if it was the timing or the place, but I think I felt instinctively that I'm going to stay here for a while. And I just looked back on my life, and then it had been 17 years living in 11 countries. And I looked back and I just thought, I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I really want to change my life now. And I thought, what can I do? How can I change my life? I've been teaching for so long. So I kept, talking to people, and I kept meeting coactive coaches everywhere. So I thought, maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is a sign. So I ended up doing the coactive training, and not to become a coach, just to coach myself and then hopefully discover what I want to do with my life. And the process of this was really difficult. I found it really difficult because we had to work on ourselves in front of like 20 people. And for me, it was actually, honestly, my worst nightmare. And what I really learned from that is we were really processing our emotions, like feeling. And in doing this, I realized that actually I hadn't been letting myself feel for so long. And this was just huge realization for me. And I learned so many other things during the whole training, that at the end of the training, I was just like, this was so what I needed. I started working on myself. I had this new self-awareness, and I realized so many things about myself. And I just realized that, it's not about going to a new country, starting a new life. It's about obviously working on yourself. That's when you have the biggest change. It was huge for me that I decided this is what I want to do. I want to become certified, and I got certified the following year. And I want to work with teenagers, because obviously I was thinking about myself as a teen, and I want to help them, build their self-esteem, self-confidence, process their emotions in a healthy way, express themselves in a healthy way, effectively communicate, all of these things that when I was a teenager, I didn't have access to. Well, I didn't think I had access to, inner resources, basically. So that's what I did. I got certified. And then, of course, I realized, because I was becoming so emotionally aware, I realized that I'd been holding on to this grief for like 20 years. Eventually, I processed that. And that completely changed my life as well, because, if we don't process I always thought if something happens in the past, it's in the past. It's not going to affect the future. But actually, I realized that if you go through something like a trauma, your body is still holding on to that trauma until you process it. And if you're still holding on to that trauma, you will make decisions in your life in the present related to that. So I'd been making decisions that maybe weren't the best for me because I was carrying this grief. Anyway, it was just huge, all these revelations I was having. So I decided to create my creative confidence program. I started giving workshops to schools and universities, teaching these key tools and techniques in a fun way, simple way, engaging way. Didn't want to overwhelm anybody. And then I would get feedback from my students, and they would say, can you do a workshop on this? Because I would ask them, what do you need? What would help you right now? So based on the feedback, I then created another workshop. And in the end, I had 12 workshops. So then I created my creative confidence program, teaching skills for, like I said, self-resilience, self-confidence, communication. And then I thought, I need to support parents as well, because my mum is absolutely amazing, but she didn't know how to support me because she didn't have the training. So then I started creating workshops for parents, supporting parents. And then I had my creative confidence program on the United TI Cloud to support parents and educators as well. And that's actually what I do now. And it's, sometimes I think, it took me 20 years to get here, but I realized, it wasn't too late. It's never too late to work on yourself, and I really do believe that had I have had this access to these resources now, then maybe it wouldn't have worked for me then, so I do believe that things happen at the right time. And, and I was ready And that's why I learnt the tools when I did, and I realized, all the teaching experience I had, that just helps me in my work today. So, everything happens for a reason. I really do believe that. But of course, ideally, I think if you can learn these tools and techniques, the sooner the better, really. The more self-awareness you have, the more you can build that healthy relationship with yourself. And of course, the healthier the relationship is with yourself, the healthier the relationship is with everybody else in your life. So it's a life changer, really. And I think, we don't want to carry all of the things that we've been through. We just want to process our emotions, let them go, move on, and live happy lives. And yeah, that's what I do. Thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure working with ASPIKA Talks. If you would like to reach out to me for any more information on what I do or how I can help you, please feel free to contact me through my profile, which is on ASPIKA Talks. And also, I have a program, Creative Confidence Program, which supports educators and teachers and therapists and coaches who work with adolescents. And it's on Unitas TI Cloud. And you can also book a demo there. And all of the information, again, is on ASPIKA Talks in my profile. Thank you so much, and hope to contact you soon.